Hi, I'm Gareth Green, and in this video we're going to be thinking about the pentatonic scale. So what is the pentatonic scale? Well, we know that music in the Western tradition at least uses a major scale or a minor scale that normally contains 7 different notes within the octave. So if I give you a scale of C major, I've got 7 different notes: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, before I go back to C again. So that's the standard Western scale. In other cultures, we have other scales that divide into different numbers of notes, but that's the Western tradition. And another name for this 7-note scale that's far less commonly used is heptatonic. So a heptatonic scale is a 7-note scale, which is what you've got with a major or a minor scale. So what's the difference between a heptatonic scale and a pentatonic scale? Well, we know pent is a bit of a suggestion of 5, isn't it? Pentagon, 5-sided figure. So pentatonic scale is a scale that's just using 5 notes inside the octave instead of 7 notes. And on the board, just the opening bars of quite a famous tune, Oh Susanna. That's an example of a piece that uses the pentatonic scale. Now you've got slightly different possibilities for a pentatonic scale, but what have we got in Oh Susanna? Well, you see the first note C, the second note is D, the third note is E, so that's 3 notes. Then it jumps up to G, so that's our 4th note, and then A is our 5th note. So it's just using C, D, E, G, A. So Oh Susanna. Those famous tunes, isn't it? You might have been singing that for years, but it's a pentatonic scale. It's only using 5 notes of the octave instead of the 7 notes. So it's a famous example of a pentatonic scale. Well, it's got a long history, this pentatonic scale. Goes right back to ancient civilizations. But we've got basically 2 types of pentatonic scale. We've got a pentatonic scale that includes semitones, and that's called hemitonic. I'll just put that up here for you. So hemitonic. Okay, so there's hemitonic, a pentatonic scale that includes semitones. We've also got a pentatonic scale that doesn't include semitones, and that's called anhemitonic. So anhemitonic. These words can be a bit of a mouthful sometimes, can't they? But if you can get hold of hemitonic, that's the one that includes the semitones, and then you just put an on the front of it, anhemitonic, then you've got one that doesn't use semitones. Okay, now we've also got the major pentatonic scale and the minor pentatonic scale. So let's have a little think about that. So first of all, let's consider the major pentatonic scale. So let's just put these on. So we've got the major pentatonic, and we've got the minor pentatonic. So there we go. Okay, so what do we mean then when we're talking about the major pentatonic scale? Well, there are various ways in which an anhemitonic pentatonic scale can be put together. But what we call the major pentatonic scale is most easily thought of as a sort of incomplete major scale. So if you think of a major scale, we just talked about C major, didn't we? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, before we go back to C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Back to number 1 again. Well, just think of this as using the first, the second, the third, the fifth, and the sixth degrees of the scale. So the first, the second, the third, the fifth, and the sixth. So you could take any major scale and just say, I'm only going to use 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So in C major, C, D, E, G, A. If I was in D major, it would be D, E, F sharp, A, B. Okay, so that's a nice easy way of remembering what your major pentatonic scale is, just by thinking it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 of a major scale. That's a quick way of finding the notes. It's not really the right way to think about a pentatonic scale, because you don't really want to think, well, a pentatonic scale is a major scale with a couple of notes missing, because that sounds like, oh, well, why not just have a major scale then and have all the notes? Because the whole point is a pentatonic scale is a complete scale in its own right. It's not just a major scale that's been robbed. I mean, another way of doing it, if you want to, is to calculate the major pentatonic scale by thinking about 5 consecutive pitches from the circle of fifths. Now, if you don't know the circle of fifths, don't worry about it. But basically, C major is on the circle of fifths at the top with no sharps. If I go round to the next key, I go up a fifth to G, and that's got 1 sharp. Then I go up another fifth and I come to D, and that's got 2 sharps. And I go up another fifth to A, and that's got 3 sharps. And I go up another fifth to E, and that's got 4 sharps. Now, if I put all those notes close together, so C, D, E, G, A, you can see that I've now got the pentatonic scale again. So it's another way of working it out if you want to do it that way. Okay, well, the third way of doing it is obviously to think about a full major scale. And then instead of thinking, well, I need to use the first, the second, the third, the fifth, and the sixth, actually, all I need to do is use a major scale and miss out the fourth and the seventh. So you might prefer to think of it that way. Take a major scale, kick out the fourth, kick out the seventh, and you're back in business. So C major, it's got these notes, isn't it? Kick out the fourth note, so kick out F, kick out the seventh note B, and you're left with that major pentatonic scale. These are just ways of working it out in case you get kind of muddled with it. So in a way, it just gives us an added advantage thinking of it that way as well, because you can also work out another transposition of an anhemitonic pentatonic scale starting on F, because you can have F, G, A, C, D. It's just another one that you can work out from there. So if you miss out the first and the fourth degrees of the C major scale, we can also end up with a third anhemitonic pentatonic scale, because we can go G, A, B, D, E. So do you see where we're coming to? So we've got C, D, E, G, A. We could also have F, G, A, C, D, and we could also have G, A, B, D, E. So those are different possibilities, aren't they, using the white notes of the piano. Now, of course, a scale made up entirely of black keys on a piano keyboard also generates another major pentatonic scale. So you could have G flat, A flat, B flat, D flat, E flat. So you see you've got 5 notes, because the next one will be G flat again, takes you back to where you start. So there's another pentatonic scale just using the black notes. Now, I think this is a really useful one to think about. We always sort of think about starting with C major, because C major's got no sharps, no flats. But actually, if you want to think pentatonic, starting with the black keys is quite handy. So even though you might be thinking, oh my goodness, what are all these flats? Well, it's just all the black keys. It might be G flat, A flat, B flat, D flat, E flat, or you could think of it in sharps, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C sharp, D sharp. Doesn't really matter actually, because they're all the same notes. So you can end up kind of doing a little bit of improvisation with the pentatonic scale that I think is a really fun thing to do just by using the black keys. And then if you kind of get a bit more confident with this, you could then think, well, if I can do that on those black keys, maybe I can do it on these white keys as well. So what do I mean? Well, could we make up a piece of music that just uses those black notes? There are lots of different ways in which you could do it, but even doing something like this. It sort of sounds a bit like Music of the Orient or something, doesn't it? But it's rather fun to do that, isn't it? Just to do a little sort of two-part thing like that. Or, you could do it something like this. Put some pedal down and just enjoy the wash of sound. Then change the order of notes and have a few single notes. And then you find yourself doing something that sounds like Debussy or something in no time at all. So you can have a lot of fun improvising just using those black notes. And it gets your ear tuned into that pentatonic scale thinking as well. So that's the major pentatonic scale. Now, let's just think about the minor pentatonic scale for a moment. Some people calculate their minor pentatonic scale from a blues scale. That's fine. If you're used to doing that, stick with it. But I think the easiest way to go about working out what the minor pentatonic is start with a natural minor scale. Okay, so let's take A natural minor. It's the easiest one to think about because it hasn't got sharps and flats. So what do I mean by this? Well, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So in other words, A minor is related to C major. C major doesn't have any sharps or flats, so A natural minor doesn't have any sharps or flats either. If you're in G major has an F sharp in it, so E natural minor also has F sharp. Okay, so that's what we mean by the natural minor, if that was confusing you in any way. Now, what you can do here is to say, okay, I'll start with a natural minor, and I'll just select the first, third, fourth, fifth, and seventh degree. So let's think about that. I'm in A minor, I'm taking the first note A, then I'm jumping to the third note C, then the fourth note D, the fifth note E, and the seventh note G. So I've got A, C, D, E, G. The first note, the third note, the fourth note, the fifth note, and the seventh note of the scale. Okay? Now, you can get into the fact that these relative major and minor scales we've been talking about form part of the discussion when we're comparing major and minor pentatonic scales, because as we've just said, the A minor pentatonic scale is the relative minor of C major pentatonic. All right, so we've talked about A minor being the relative minor of C major. That's true for major scales, major keys. It's also true for the pentatonics. So another way of thinking about this then is that the A minor pentatonic scale uses the same notes as the C major pentatonic scale. But the only difference is that we start on A instead of on C. So if I'm talking about the C major thing and we're kind of going 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, C, D, E, G, A. Well, all I need to do is to take that A off the top and put it on the bottom. So I go A, C, D, E, G, and I've now got a minor pentatonic scale. So let me just run that again. The C major pentatonic scale we said was the first, the second, the third, the fifth, and the sixth notes of C major. When I want to go to the relative minor, A minor, and I'm now trying to find the minor pentatonic scale. All I've got to do is take this A off the top, put it on the bottom, leave the other notes in place. A, C, D, E, G. So that gives me the minor pentatonic scale and helps me to think about C major and A minor are related to each other, and you can do that with any major or relative minor scale. Okay, so it's a way to look at it, isn't it? So just take the C major pentatonic scale, simply slip it down one note in the note order, and you've got the pentatonic minor. So you'll also notice, of course, that in the minor pentatonic scale, you've got all three notes of an A minor triad, just as the C major pentatonic scale has got all three notes of a C major triad. It's an interesting thing just to think about, isn't it? If the C major pentatonic is this, C, D, E, G, A, well, the C major tonic triad is C, E, G. And as soon as I slip that top note down to the bottom, take A off the top, put A on the bottom, you can also see I've now got now the minor pentatonic scale is there. I've also got A minor tonic triad, A, C, E. So it's interesting, isn't it, that you get the tonic triad inside the major pentatonic, and you also get the tonic triad inside the minor pentatonic. If you're a guitarist, you might think of this a slightly different way. The standard tuning of your guitar gives you kind of the notes of an E minor pentatonic scale. You know, your standard tuning of the E, A, D, G, B, E. That's a way of finding an E minor pentatonic scale, and it's probably one reason why it's used so much in various forms of pop music, that actually that sits very comfortably on the guitar. So it's an introduction to the pentatonic scale, the major pentatonic scale and the minor pentatonic scale. And as I say, if you want to have a bit of fun improvising and composing with the pentatonic, well, start with those black keys and see if you can come up with something that sounds like this. And you'll be composing and improvising like a true pro in no time at all. So there we are, an introduction to the pentatonic scale and the joys you can have with it. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, can I invite you to go to our website, www.mmcourses.co.uk, where you're going to find all sorts of resources that could be very useful to you. So you can find individual help there, you can have access to all of our many courses, and also you might be interested in joining our Maestros program, which is a global musical community that we're pulling together so we can all learn and learn from each other. So there are 3 levels of Maestros. Level 1 is a kind of support level that doesn't cost very much at all, but entitles you to certain benefits. If you go on to level 2, well, there are more benefits, and also you can join us for a monthly live stream where I put a good hour of teaching input in, a chance to think about all sorts of musical topics from one month to the next. We'd run a live chat so you can ask your questions, put your comments on the live chat, share with other people who are studying alongside with you, and that's great fun and people really enjoy doing it. And then we've got a level 3, which is a second live stream as well as additional benefits. And in the second live stream, because you get all the level 2 benefits as well, in the second live stream, we've got a sort of one-to-one engagement. So you can submit compositions, you can submit recorded performances, bits of harmony, whatever it is you're working on and you want some feedback on, I'll give you one-to-one feedback on it. And we'll share that with the group so everybody learns from each other fantastic group of people who just can't wait to meet for the next particular live stream that's coming up. So if all that's of interest to you, just have a look. Click on Maestros when you go to the Music Matters page and all will be revealed. www.mmcourses.co.uk.